GM, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Make It Rain NFL Week 15. We are back in action. I am joined once again with my esteemed colleagues, Mr. JJ, Therick, and Jake. Gentlemen, good morning. How's everyone doing today?
Doing good. Better than the Seahawks, that's for sure.
GM, yeah. Another day. Excited to run through the slate, baby. We got a fun one. We got Saturday games this time.
Ooh, football, 4 games this week.
Tis the season indeed. Yeah, those Niners looked for real. All they needed was a little a Brock magic, and here we are, rolling right along. So, well, good stuff, gentlemen. So last week, I think as a group here, it was a little bit of a slower week in from a sweat standpoint. I don't think we were going to run through any lineups to review, but JJ, did you want to maybe talk about just kind of what transpired for your lineups last week? We kind of kick the can around and see any adjustments we're making into this week.
Yeah, I had a couple of sweats last week. Ultimately ended up with a 16th place as my best one. If I had Judy instead of Metcalf, or for the late swap, or anyone but Kirk in that early game, would have done way better. But that's at least we put ourselves in position to win this week. One play away from another top 10 finish, as has been the case for like the last 7-8 weeks so far. So can't complain about top 20 each week. So.
Yeah, it seemed like one of those, right? I mean, if you didn't have Evan Ingram, right, it's just some of those lineups. I think Therick put it nicely. It's just those 1% outcomes for players that you're not going to play. You kind of roll your eyes and move on to the next week, right?
Yep. And the winner actually didn't have Evan Ingram, funnily enough. So, yeah, a lot of the Evan Ingram lineups are probably just people putting in their leftovers. And so they had like Chuba Hubbard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In the late swap.
That makes a lot of sense too. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, fun week this week ahead. Last week was more of a play early and then swap late. Although I think a late swap, full late swap optimal lineup would have got you like a third place finish. But you just wanted the early games, and I think this week is shaping up to be a bit different, where you want more of the later games this week.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think as we kind of close out into the end of the season here, are there any adjustments to? I know we kind of touched on strategy a couple weeks ago. Anything changed in your minds as far as how you're approaching your portfolios and contest selection here into the end of the season?
Yeah. Well, no, I am going for the glory, so I have so many players that I shouldn't have. But for those that are not going for that, I would recommend just focusing on playoff players and cutting the rest of them. These guys in the bubble, I think, are fine picking up because they could spike if they make the playoffs. Like Lions look like they probably will make it in given their soft schedule and how well they've been playing, right? And those electric offense, so it's players that you want to have anyway. So would definitely look into speculating on those kind of players for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think like JJ mentioned before, I think something that's changed for me is being more mindful of the actual teams that are in the late swap windows, and what cards you have for those teams too when you're building lineups. Like last week, for instance, like there wasn't a ton of good late swap options for the cards. So, you kind of have to adapt your strategy. Whereas I usually do, a lot of, lineups with dummy parts for the late swap, where I only have like 2 or 3 in the early games. But last week I kind of consolidated a little bit more because the late games, there wasn't as many guys who can just be the hammer for you down the stretch. Whereas this week it's a little different. We got better games. We got Tampa Bay guys, Cincinnati guys, Tennessee Chargers. So there's a little better options than normal, and then. So I guess kind of thinking through that. Oh, there's also 4 games instead of 3 games in that late swap window as well. So I think that's one of the things that it's more of these nuanced things. Like it's which I actually love. There's just so much strategy involved with the Rainmakers. Like it just keeps going deeper and deeper, which is really fun if you get really into it. So that's just one thing I've been more mindful of, is the nuances that come with these late games.
Yeah, I love that. I think those are excellent points. I'll kind of throw a little bit of a curveball here and just ask, like, especially into the end of the season here, and taking some playoff players into account. If there was someone that wanted to enter now and maybe just take a shot at the 100K elite, right, and wanted to just build a lineup that really had a shot to win it, where would you suggest they start with their first purchase? I mean, is it a superstar like CMC? Do you lean superstar in the quarterback position? How do you build around it? If someone was to take one pitch, where would you start with that lineup build?
Yeah, I would go with a superstar that is likely to make the playoffs, right? I think that's probably the obvious best ROI scenario you can go, right? Like Mahomes is probably one of them. Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts versus the Bears this week is probably one of my favorite plays, and the one that you probably have to get contrarian against in your late swap lineups. But yeah, like Jalen Hurts would probably be the one. Start there at the superstar, and then build from there. Just focus on playoff teams.
Yeah, I'd also make sure that if you're buying a quarterback, you get a wide receiver with them. Make sure that there's someone that you want to stack them with. It's while full game stacks hardly work out in Rainmakers, having at least one wide receiver to link up with your quarterback really helps. If one of them's having a ceiling game, the other one's probably having a ceiling game.
Yeah, I love that. I completely agree there. I'm on board. I think those are, I think what seem to us easy decisions to make week to week, but I do think it's nice to provide some context for people that do want to take some shots here and there into the end of the season and see if they can get a little spike week themselves. One thing we did want to touch on is the introduction of this Pixel Vault contest. I don't know how deep we've dove into it, but are you guys considering playing this? I'm going to go ahead and screen share at least some of the details. And if you guys just want to talk through your initial impressions here, if you intend to play and what you're looking for in the marketplace to decide whether you are going to play or not.
Yeah, I'll start off. I think I'm going to be playing this one at the core level. The core and the rare contests have the same prize pool, though rare has, I think, about a quarter of the entries. But with these kind of games, you pretty much have to land on the nuts anyway, or close to the nuts. So that's why I'm going to be playing at core, because it's a lot cheaper. But yeah, a lot of these players are, playoff bound. You got the Vikings, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Ravens in there. So a lot of playoff bound teams that the cards will probably retain some value.
Yeah, and if there's still half the supply left, I mean that'll drop some, but it means that there's a better chance of winning it than normal. But at this point in the season, yeah, if you're not buying playoff players, it's going to be rough. You're really just trying to take down this contest, so you need to be really strategic. Just because they keep adding more of these contests, and usually it's one of those things where unless you make a lot of money, you get really high up on the contest, you probably lost a decent amount of money, and you won't be able. There's very few weeks left to make them back unless you have playoff players. So I'm trying.
Oh, sorry.
So I was going to say, so I'm not going to be playing this. I'm rooting for the people that do, but I think I'm done buying packs. At least at this point in the season, I'm done buying packs and diluting even further.
Yeah, good shout. I think cereals are going to matter again if you are playing this contest, just like it did for the Thanksgiving slate. So if you are playing this, just pay attention to your cereals or play lower owned players. This one.
I will say I don't think it will matter as much because there won't be as many entries, so it won't matter. And it's still the same amount of teams and games as the past one. But I do agree that it will matter, especially for if you're playing like the highest projected guys, a lot of the highest projected guys in the same lineup.
Yeah, the good thing is it's not as obvious as the Thanksgiving one, right? You had a lot of duds in there, and the player pools you could probably play were concentrated, but in this one you got a lot of options.
Yeah,
good stuff. I appreciate you guys touching on that. I think covered a lot of ground there, and just different angles to kind of play not just the marketplace, but some of the newer contest editions as well. And some strategy and things to think about as well as we move into some of these contests. I do think that the playoff card shout is a really good one to make, right? If you are going to take a plunge in here, make sure that you get some ROI on the cards you purchase in the marketplace, and maybe you can get some extra run out of them into the playoff season here as well. All right, so let's go ahead and transition right into our marketplace analysis segment. We like to take a look and see where we can find some edges, some values, some overpriced, some underpriced. Eric, did you want to go ahead and walk us through what you're seeing in the marketplace?
Yep, just as we expect in both or in every floor of every tier, it still continues the steady drip. We really haven't seen a huge tank week. There's been some little bit of a drop, but we haven't seen where it drops 50% or anything like that. It's just slowly declining week after week, and probably we'll see it week 17 for all the players that aren't in the playoffs, but the ones that are will still hold it above 0. One of the big things I've noticed is that in Elite, there's no $1,000+ players anymore. Rare, there's no $100+ players anymore, and cores drop below 20 for the highest price players, which is great if you want to get in now, because you can build a lineup for about $10-15 in core if you really want to just test the waters and see how it is. But we're just going to continue to see this further. It may, if you're really curious about it, it may be best to wait till week 17, and it's just going to be even cheaper than that if you're not looking to actually continue playing week after week and you just want to test it to see what it's about. Probably in another week or two, it's going to drop even further and be even cheaper to build a decent lineup.
Yeah, good shouts there. How are we looking on the weekly front here?
So weekly, we're seeing some pretty predictable movement in card prices. People are still buying up the players that are returning from injury. We see Mike Williams increasing in price, J.K. Dobbins increasing from price. Desmond Ridder makes sense as we had the quarterback change in Atlanta, and people want to see if he's a superstar or if he's no good. We're also seeing an increase in playoff players as well. People that are planning on people that can really win a week in the playoffs. Losers, Kyler Murray makes the most sense. He's gone for the season. The Cardinals definitely aren't making the playoffs. He's probably going to drop to $1 here soon. DeAndre Hopkins, his value dropped significantly, although Colt McCoy is still going to throw a ton of targets, but his ceiling has definitely dropped. And then people don't trust T. Higgins. They don't trust Zach Taylor at all. Whatever he says about T. Higgins, no one's going to believe him anymore after he's done he's fine, and then doesn't play him for 2 weeks now, which has costed us a lot of money. So anything Zach Taylor has to say about T. Higgins, everybody's going to take with a huge grain of salt. It surprised me. One of the things that surprised me was that Colt McCoy pumped so much in Elite. You're going to get him for 3-4 weeks, and he's not going to be the quarterback you need to win. He'll never be the top scoring quarterback, and so I'm surprised people are really going after him. It might just be people trying to speculate and hoping they can flip for higher, but that really surprised me. Anything you guys see that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, you can kind of see the playoff players falling off again, like Josh Jacobs, even though he's probably one of the best running backs to play every week. He's falling quite heavily just because, like you said, it's only going to be 4 weeks of play for him. And you got to make the most out of it during that time. But also don't see Jamar Chase popping up here, which is crazy to me because I think it's one of the best. He's taken that Diggs role of being like kind of the best play up option, I think, in terms of the wide receiver role.
Yeah, especially if T. Higgins is dropping, it's clear that people don't trust his health. Then you would think, and Tyler Boyd's injured now too, you would think Jamar Chase would be pumping as the last man standing. And we saw last week that you may not need a second player. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase stack can really go high. So I'm surprised at that as well.
Yeah, one thing you're right. Just the correlation, obviously, with the Kyler injury, and then DeAndre Hopkins, kind of the double-edged windfall there. Not a playoff team either. So it makes sense to kind of see that, but maybe some value to be had there into the end of the season if you want to search for a nice value in D Hop. I'm sure they'll still continue to feed him the targets there, regardless of who's behind center. So something to monitor for sure.
I also don't think J.K. Dobbins pumping is a very wise thing. He did have a great game last week, but it's still a three-headed backfield. They don't have a great quarterback. They're not going to have high team totals. So you're just hoping that what he did last week is the norm rather than the exception. I personally think it's the exception rather than the norm. So
yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, for the Saturday slate, right, running back is pretty thin. Outside of Superstar, you have Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, and then probably one of these Baltimore running backs, right? So I kind of get it as like a short-term buy for this game. If you want to play against the Cleveland defense, who's given up so many points to the run, so I get it for this week specifically.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised at Diggs falling. I know he hasn't popped off like crazy the last couple of weeks, but he's still on the Bills. He's still a very one of the favorites to win it all. So him falling $300 is a bit surprising to me. Because he's still kind of the piece you want with him not being a superstar, and you can play him up a tier as well. He's still a super valuable card to have. So that's my biggest surprise when seeing all these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point. Good shouts there. Jake, did you have any additional overvalued or undervalued players that caught your eye in the marketplace this week?
Yeah, I was looking through kind of similar in a bit of a similar vein of Diggs, a guy who thinks I'm undervalued, who's on a team that's very good. Is Devontae Smith for the Eagles. The Eagles have only lost one game all year. They have the best record in the NFL. They have a pretty nice path to get the first, the number one seed in the NFC there. And there's really not a ton of competition in the NFC. It's like the 49ers and the Cowboys. And then outside of that, it's like, I don't know if anyone can really compete with the Eagles, maybe. But regardless, they'll have a home field advantage in a lot of these games. And a nice path all the way to the Super Bowl. So that's extra games that you'll have Devontae Smith for. And he's only $140 for Elite, $22 rare, and $4 for core. He's gotten, 8+ targets in their last 5 games. And he's a top draft pick. He's a huge talent. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's the kind of guy you want to bet on, who's young and, can continue to up his game as the season goes on as well. So I really like Devontae Smith for the rest of the season at these prices right now.
Can I say, like Kirk Cousins, I mean, we saw a ceiling game from him last week. Do you think his price is like just disrespectful? I mean, I know he hasn't done it all season, but I just picked one up for $225 at Elite for Genesis, and he's playing in the playoffs. We saw the ceiling game finally, but do you think it's kind of like a good pickup at this price?
I think people still don't believe in him. I think even though he had a ceiling game, I think people still, he's never going to get 30 because we have so many rushing quarterbacks that will. And so people don't, unless he's on a small slate, people are just thinking, yeah, he can get me high, but I can play Justin Jefferson somewhere else with another stack and do better. Is play a Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or someone like that can put up a better score on their own. So I think people just don't believe that he's ever going to be the quarterback you need to win a week.
Yeah, I'd say I like it. I think it's the best bet of like playoff bound quarterbacks. I think it's probably the best buy at his price.
Well, that's the thing too, is that we saw it in Thanksgiving. You needed Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson to win it. And he's on the 3-game slate this week. He's going to be on small slates. And so it's not like you're not going to ever need him. But people see him as a main slate thing. And people are still thinking main slate in mind with a lot of these prices, and so they will believe, which is probably true, that he won't ever be the highest scoring quarterback in the main slate. But on these 3-game slates, these 2-game slates, however they do it in the playoffs, he may actually be the quarterback that you needed.
Yeah, good points. Good points. JJ, anyone else in the marketplace overvalued, undervalued that you had jotted down?
There's a lot of players that you can buy for cheap now because obviously they're gonna not make the playoffs, and it's kind of a flyer. So I like playing these players because they can just kind of spike. I like building them, especially this week. I'm going with the 2 or 3 early approach, and then late swap 2 or 3 players into the late, just because I think you want to get off the. You want to get some lineups with Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes in, but you also want to keep some live for if you want to late swap like Herbert or Burrow stacks into those lineups, right? So I think my favorite one, and it's going to be gross, is Drake London, right? Getting a new quarterback situation. He's $50. I mean, you can build a pretty cheap late swap lineup probably for less than $100 going into the late swap. And if they go off, you can swap in Herbert or Burrow or even Derrick Henry with Tom Brady stack or something, right? So just trying to think of scenarios to keep it live because Jalen Hurts will have a floor game at some point. Probably won't be this week. Same thing with Mahomes. We saw some weeks where he got like 19 points. So I know those two are the favorites to score the most points for the quarterback this week, but you just got to set yourself up for when these kind of situations flop.
Yeah, good shout there. I totally agree. Anyone else have anyone in mind for gain or for overvalued, undervalued this week?
Yeah, I got another overvalued guy.
Sure. Yeah, please.
I'm gonna go with Amari Cooper. He's 119 elite, 17 rare, and 350 for core. The Browns probably aren't going to make the playoffs. Very unlikely. They're 5-8 right now. Deshaun Watson has not been the quarterback upgrade that many have expected so far. He might, maybe he gets a little better. I think he probably will warm up a little bit heading into these last games of the season, but he really has not shown anything better than what Brissett has given them early on. And at the same time, Amari has been pretty up and down as well. And these home road splits narrative, with Amari has been pretty real thing for his entire career. I don't know what it is exactly, but it kind of sounds strange just to be like, oh, this guy's going to go off at home and do terrible on the road. But it's been true, like for the most part, over like a pretty large sample size now.
So shout out to Davis Maddock, but his theory is that Amari Cooper is not a very good sleeper. And so if he doesn't have all his setup, his home comfy bed and everything like that, if he's sleeping on a hotel bed that's not that great, then he just doesn't get good sleep at all. And so that's the theory, is that he's waking up tired and not refreshed, and causing him to struggle in those away games just because he can't get good sleep.
Could be, man. I feel that. I don't sleep as well on the road either. I like that in my big old bed, But yeah, so yeah, he has two away games at the end of the year as well. So he's just a guy where I think you can kind of sell off and bet on some other guys at around that same price.
Yeah, I like that. Especially as that offense looks to get going here in the end of the year. Still as talented of a receiver and route runner as there is in the league, and a spike week is always on the board for him when things are going right, for sure. 2 names I had written down, a little bit thinner, per usual, I guess, but Juju is one that I'll throw out there. I know they funnel things through Kelsey. That team's going to make a playoff run here as well. They might get 1 week off here depending on how things shake out in the end of the year, but I know there were a couple soft weeks with him coming back from injury, uptick in targets last week. Might be a little game flow dependent with him, but I do like the way they work him into the mix when they do look his way, and always a threat to score a touchdown. Some of those shorter, medium routes from the slot there. So I like Juju, 275 in core, 16 rare, 200 elite. Not super cheap, but at the lower levels, I think you can put together a nice lineup around him if you're stacking him with Mahomes. Super thin as well, but I like the way they're using him now that he's healthy. DJ Chark, I know they have Jameson back, that offense is clicking, and he is a threat to have, 4 catch, 2 touchdown type game. That could be a nice spike week into the end of the season here. Obviously, last week, really the last 3 weeks, he's seen a nice uptick in volume share or target volume, even with Jameson back. I just think all the pieces are kind of coming together for that offense, and Chark might be one that can kind of really take advantage with some of those really deep shot plays down the field. So someone to kind of throw a dart at as well. But again, a little bit thin, a little bit risky there, but going for the glory. So here we go. So great stuff, guys. Thank you very much. A lot of meat on the bone there for the marketplace segment. Let's go ahead and move right into our favorite stacks of the week. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit during the marketplace segment, but really let's focus in and see what Vegas has given us in terms of team totals and where we lie. We got kind of a split slate this week as well. So good to talk through some of this stuff as well. Jake, did you want to go ahead and put that up? Eric, if you don't mind pulling down the screen share there. Thank you very much, sir.
Awesome. Yeah. So we got some Saturday games this week. Here tomorrow. No crazy high team totals this week. Nothing over 50, which I haven't seen in a while. No real shootouts planned. It's a little harder to find a favorite stack. There's no like real obvious one this week. Personally, I'm going to go with the Chargers here in this late game. This Tennessee passing defense has been getting absolutely shredded week in and week out. They sell out to stop the run, and then they cannot stop the pass. We just saw Evan Ingram put up 40 plus DraftKings points on them, and Trevor Lawrence go off as well. And this Chargers offense has been clicking now that they are healthy. They have Keenan Allen back. They have Mike Williams back. Josh Palmer's there healthy as well. And Herbert's also healthier as well. He was playing through some injury stuff as well. So really liking the Chargers. And you can kind of do a bring back there too of Derrick Henry if you want to, because the Chargers run D is pretty terrible as well. So it's like their best parts with the Chargers passing game, and then they really match well with what the other opponent's weakness is. So really big on the Chargers pass offense this week. Either Keenan or Mike Williams paired with Herbert.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. JJ, did you have any stacks in mind here?
Yeah, that was the one that I was looking at.
Scramble drill off schedule. Let's make an off schedule throw.
I think the Eagles one is a good one. I think that one will probably play to the over. I like both sides of that game, Eagles stacks, Bear stacks. But one that I think, people might think that it's a get right spot for the Cowboys defense, but I think it'll be a shootout. I think we've seen that the Jags can definitely sling it. The Cowboys D was kind of embarrassed last week by the Houston offense, who's, I don't know if they're actively trying to lose games or not, but I think that played into why they lost that game, because lets them tank more. But they could have won that game, and that was one where people thought Cowboys D was just locked in and loaded for that one. So kind of like that one as a kind of sneaky shootout for the slate.
How about you, Big T?
For me, it's probably going to be the Chiefs. Mahomes has been solid. He hasn't had a true ceiling game in a few weeks, and Kelsey hasn't had a true ceiling game in a few weeks, but the Texans defense is just god awful. But that being said, they have put up some fight lately. And so if they can put up as much fight as they did versus the Cowboys last week, then it may pressure Mahomes to throw the ball more. And we've seen the Chiefs as well. If they really want to, they'll just turn on the gas and put up 3-4 passing touchdowns before they go to the run. It's really hard to predict where the touchdowns are going to go, but I think just doing a Mahomes Kelsey is probably the safest way to do it. And it's going to get even worse later on when Tony and Hardman come back. But for right now, Mahomes Kelsey, and if you want a third guy than probably Juju, but he would be more of a game stack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it is a little bit different, or a little bit more difficult this week, right? 10-game slate on Sunday, which is fine, but the matchups just really don't present a lot of glaring, plays like in some recent weeks. So I guess I'll bite the bullet. Bengals and Bucks. Bucks are just so disappointing, and that offense can't get on track. But you can still get a nice little Burrow Chase stack in there, and maybe run it back with some Godwin if you want to game stack it. The total, it might be a little bit of a slower paced game, but there is the opportunity for some upside there with the receiving cores as well. So I'll be monitoring that one. Did have into this morning did have that Jets Lions game circled, but with the transition over to Zach Wilson, it's just I ain't gonna swallow that pill, So we'll move on this week and see where it takes us. I do think there is a lot of opportunity on this slate. It's just maybe not as glaring, and so we'll have to see how it shakes out point wise. And maybe game stacks aren't necessarily the play this week, right? It's maybe you find some skinnies and get a quarterback and receiver and call it a day, just because there's some blowout potential in some of the higher tier games as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite just wide receiver stacks is Olave in London, right? I think Olave has always been a stud this season, and he's getting a really good matchup there, and I think that he's really cheap. I think he's $100. I think at Elite, and so we've seen the Falcons allow some monster receiving games to wide receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And obviously, I mean, with Olave, there's a nice floor there as well as kind of being their main receiving target, I think, here, with the upside of those deep shot plays as well. I mean, he's a big playmaker down the field, so a lot of room for opportunity there for sure. Anyone else have any final thoughts before we move on?
No, just JJ just front run me kind of. You mentioned London, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see what London's like. Then I saw that JJ bought one 10 minutes ago during the show.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I was picking him up earlier in the week.
And now he's like 70.
Yeah, I picked up 3 of them this week, and then I just bought an Olave for 100 too. So
I love that.
Yeah, man, it's a good week. I mean, as we go towards the end, you'll see like a lot of these players will just be so cheap that it makes sense to just make a lineup. I mean, the prize pool is the same, right? And so allows you to just take shots and then swap in if they go off.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, keep them coming, JJ. When DK Gasbot, start sniping the marketplace here.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Awesome, great stuff, guys. Let's go ahead and move into our lineup challenge segment, as we like to do every single week. This is a lineup that we've kind of been curating throughout the season, making some adjustments. We started with a $50 bankroll, and have kind of been adjusting on the fly based off of injuries and matchups throughout the year, and kind of gearing it up for the stretch run here, and really trying to show newcomers into Rainmakers that you don't need a big bankroll or to be a big part of Rainmakers all season long to have the ability to build a successful lineup week to week. We've been profiting pretty steadily. We'll pass it off to Big Theric to see where we stand right now, some adjustments we need to make into this week. Go ahead, Big T.
So the fun thing with DraftKings Rainmakers is that the cards you buy suddenly aren't on the same slate anymore. We had that last week and decided to take a week off. And this week they're doing it again, and we can't just sit here forever. But luckily, the card prices have dropped way down. We had our quarterback superstar stack going on Saturday, and we also have Dalvin Cook going on Saturday. We can't play T. Higgins or Amon-Ra St. Brown, but we're going to get some cheapies in here and hopefully make some money off of that. So I believe the plan right now, after discussing it, is at least to go with Gabe Davis. That's not the one we want. but right now he's under $3. We've got $9 just sitting in our profits account, and he's going to be a playoff player as well, and so we can probably play him for a few more weeks. And really cheap, good serial number, so we're going to go with him to start out.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
that's
that.
a nice cereal.
Mhm.
Mhm. And then we also talked about, because the game total is so high, bringing back Dalvin Cook with a indie piece, and we were bringing up Pierce, we were bringing up Paris Campbell, we were bringing up why can I not think of Pittman?
Pittman.
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
Yeah. So what are you guys feeling? I think Pittman's about $4. Paris Campbell's $1, and I'm sure Alec Pierce is $1 as well. So are you feeling Pittman, or do you want to go a little bit more off the wall and try a Campbell or Pierce?
Yeah, so what I'm thinking about here is, like, if we went Pittman, would that get duped? What do you guys think? It is a small, with it being only a 3-game slate.
I think we would be okay, just because not a lot of people are going to play Gabe Davis and not a stack. I think they would probably play it mostly in Josh Allen stacks.
Yeah,
I think
true.
people have seen Cook kind of underwhelm, and so they'd much rather play Justin Jefferson from that side.
You're right.
Yeah, I
I
agree there.
don't, now that I think about it, I don't think it'll get duped. If we do Pittman.
Yeah.
I'd probably go Pittman.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's do that then.
And if anyone's going to play that Colts side, it's probably going to be Jonathan Taylor. At the same breath,
because
so.
the amount of, I think JJ mentioned it earlier, but the amount of viable non-superstar running backs on this slate is really low. Running backs in general is really low, and so people are going to go for what's highest projected. And they'll probably play, like you said, play Taylor over Pittman.
Nice, I love it.
But yeah, we can put one more cent and get much lower cereal.
Please do.
Yeah.
Every edge we can get.
Yeah, it's important. 1,000 less on a cereal can make a huge difference, even in core.
Sure thing.
Alrighty. So I think that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to go with our Tua Tyreek Hill stack. Hope that the Buffalo game, the weather doesn't destroy it. But regardless, we have the bring back of Gabe Davis, and then we have a little mini stack of the second game of Cook and Pittman, and hope that the Baltimore-Cleveland game just completely underwhelms, which it's very likely could be based on how those teams have been playing lately.
Mm-hmm. And some backup quarterback situations going on there as well. Just always unpredictable that way. Go ahead and throw Big Pittman into that lineup. Let's complete that set.
Yep. Alrighty.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, man.
Hey, that's the winner right there.
I like it. I know we've been sniffing around slowly but surely, but consistently in the green, So again, we'll keep setting ourselves up on these slates to hopefully make some big strides here into the end of the season.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Derek. All right, well, let's rip some packs. About to close out the show here in a few minutes, and what better way to do so every week than a nice pack rip segment? So let's go ahead and pull up the screen share here. All right, so we dove in, and for the culture and for the memes, we did the Pixel Vault Special Edition pack. Let's see what we can pull here. To be honest, similar to the Deadfellows special packs that they did, the art is pretty cool on these. At the end of the day, so big props to the DK team and to working out some of these Web3 partnerships. Again, I think the art is really cool. And we'll see how the contests themselves play out, but at least we get a little taste of the pie here, and let's go ahead and degen into some of these packs and see exactly where we're going to stand here. Open sesame. I need that good juju. It's getting hot in here. All right, let's burn it up.
Burn it up.
Let's
Burn it
go, Stephon Diggs.
Oh, you got some of those MVHQ colors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Meant to be, baby.
Okay. There's 6 cards.
Off to a more than predictable start. Here we go. Core number 1. Michael Pittman, the man.
Not bad.
All right.
Nice.
Getting a lot of run on the show, Mr. Pittman. We'll take it.
I do like the look of these cards. Waddle's good.
Nice.
Waddle's sweet. Yeah, we'll take that. Decent
Some nice cereals too. Yeah.
decent cereals on both of these. Definitely take that. DPJ,
This is actually
Solid.
not bad. He had a really good game last week.
He's been playing well.
really well. Real nice. Maybe hesitate to call it a true breakout season, but making some real developmental strides for sure, and he's become a focal point of that offense. So definitely we'll take that. All right. Always a crowd pleaser on this show. The tight end pull, TJ Hawkinson. I think I've racked up about 12 of these suckers over the past couple of weeks, but that's all right. We'll roll it. Hey, if you're gonna have a tight end that's not Kelsey or Andrews, again, Hawkinson's probably the way to go there. So we'll take it. Mostert, there's a dud. I wouldn't consider him playable week to week. You know, I mean, that's
You need a Jeff Wilson injury for him
Well,
to be.
if Jeff Wilson doesn't play this week, then he's a pretty good play.
Is
Yeah,
he
that's
on? Is he questionable?
He is. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is? Okay. All right. Okay. So
Yeah,
we'll
he
monitor
left,
that.
he left last game's hurt. So
Perfect. Okay. Well, we will monitor that one for sure.
Not a defense. Not a defense, please.
Let's go ahead and see what this rare has in store for us. Kareem Hunt. Not much there. We will see that one on the marketplace here shortly. But hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. That is why we call it our DGen segment. We roll the dice and see what the Pat gods give us. Some good, some bad. That's the way it goes. On to the next one. Appreciate you guys tuning in for that one. Hopefully better luck next week. All righty, everyone. It is time to finally close out the show. NFL Week 16 Make It Rain show, episode number 12. Appreciate everyone tuning in as always for another episode here of Make It Rain. I always enjoy talking through the slate every single week. Go ahead and follow us on all of our socials on Twitter. Feel free to ask us any questions and we can go ahead and try to answer those on the show. And if you are interested in joining a Web3 community, think about joining Metaverse HQ. We talk through a variety of different Web3 topics with a lot of sharp people across the industry, investors, builders, traders, collectors, whatever it may be. And most importantly, for the purposes of this show, a nice active Rainmakers focused discussion forum where we talk through the slate week to week and some sweats along the way as well. So you can find Metaverse HQ tokens on all your favorite marketplaces. That all being said, good luck everyone this week in NFL Week 15, and let's make it rain. Peace.
peace.